Hi there and welcome to another Budget Model Railways review video, and it's a review of another brand new Metcalfe kit. Usual disclaimer, Metcalfe did supply this to me. Thank you very much for review, but it is my honest opinion, but I have to say that up front. I would always, as always, say a big thank you to Metcalfe. Budget Model Railways, we believe, promotes beginners and a slightly different way of doing the hobby. And Metcalfe are the only supplier basically who supports us, so a big thank you to them. And as I've said before, I think Metcalfe are great buildings for the Budget Model Railway for beginners. And this little kit, this is really nice. So this is the N-gauge version. It's also available in 00, and full details, of course, are on the Metcalfe website. This is PN916 in N-gauge, little Metcalfe Station Shelter. I was really excited about this. Some of you will know that this is to accompany, yes I know my chimneys are missing, they got bashed. The little Metcalfe Station. As soon as I heard that Metcalfe were making some smaller buildings, I like micro layouts, so I was really excited to have a go at these. As I say, 00 as well as N, so if anybody's watching this, it's available in both. And what a fabulous little looking building that is. Now this was, I believe, originally released as a free kit with a railway modeller in 00, but they've now done it as a model in the range. If you've not built a Metcalfe kit before, they're wonderful. I quite often get asked, what's a good first Metcalfe kit? This. It took me, 40 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes to make. You can't really go wrong with it, as I'll explain in a minute. But it's a great little introduction. It teaches you the basic Metcalfe techniques, because they're very similar actually, whether you're building this or a great big building. Few things to point out if you're not used to it. Do follow the instructions. So I'm used to the instructions starting here. So I started building and thought, oh, they've not shown putting the windows in. Yes, they have. If I bothered to follow the numbers, there you go, tells you to do it there. So do take a bit of time and do start at 1, 2 and follow it and read it, especially on some of the bigger kits. But even this one, being a simple kit, caught me out, but that's my fault because too much prior knowledge. Read them and you really can't go wrong. I know this is a simple kit, but you really can't go wrong. You don't need hardly anything to build them. Little tube of glue. Do use the applicator bottles. Metcalfe make really good ones. I got these from a craft shop. Little bit of Yoo-hoo for the windows. Pair of scissors. Craft knife. And I use a pencil. And that's really all you need. In fact, making this video reminded me that when Douglas was little, we made a couple of Metcalfe buildings one evening in a holiday cottage. It was, what do you take to keep kids occupied and myself occupied, frankly, in a holiday cottage? Well, given that that's the only toolkit you need to take, and the model comes in a nice little, pack, yeah, you do need to have I took a little box, fortunately, to take the finished thing back. But I would say these are a great little holiday build, because you can sit and do them. You don't need hardly any tools. In the old days when I was a rep and I used to travel, I used to quite often make plastic kits sat in hotel rooms because the telly's awful and I'm bored. Well, these would be absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So definitely a great kit for somebody new to Metcalfe. And also think about it as a hobby build. Why are Metcalfe so good for beginners? Well, because they've even started doing things, I didn't use it, but they've even started putting things like jigs in. So they make you a jig so that you can make things. So there really is everything here. You really haven't got to sort of bring anything else into it. Now, there is the usual thing about white lines on Metcalfe, and I'm going to do a video on that at some point, because you don't need to get white lines on Metcalfe. You just run a pencil up and down the edge, or a little bit of watercolour paint, or a felt tip pen. You soon get the knack for it, and it takes the white lines out. It's worth thinking about things like edges of roofs and under the roof, but not a problem. Lovely little building. In fact, if you, put a door in here and a little black painted cocktail stick or something out the top, it would be a nice little station building in its own right if you're making a little micro layout. But a great little waiting shelter. One little thing I've spotted on some other builds that I haven't mentioned, very occasionally, and it's probably my knife's not sharp enough, but I find the pieces don't always come off cleanly, but I just trim them with a pair of scissors. The thinner part's not a problem at all. I do like the fact that I get some spare card, which I use for other things. And in fact, the clear plastic that they put in here is useful for doing windows. And I think the nice thing with Metcalfe, I mentioned in the last video I did, that a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, Metcalfe are everywhere. Well, I've done been to 3 exhibitions recently and saw some really nice layouts. And frankly, by the time you've mixed and matched the Metcalfe buildings and possibly played with them a little bit, they are so effective. It's really difficult. You know, I'm not actually one of these people that thinks, oh no, there's Metcalfe buildings again. I'm always pleased to see them, especially when people use them imaginatively. You can chop and change them in any case. And really, as I've said before, I'm not sure where the model railway hobby would be without Metcalfe. You know, would as many people have been encouraged to make layouts? Would as many people thought, you know, that they could have a go? So if you're an experienced modeller, don't turn your nose up at Metcalfe. Please don't. They make up really nicely. You can always adapt them and play with them. You can make them nicer. You know, I've seen people do some really good additions. You can do internals. You know, you can always do nicer chimney pots and things like that if that's what you want. But for beginners, what a wonderful way of getting an effective building on your layout. I'd say this one's, there's an earlier video for that if you're interested. That's the main station building. And then this is the new one, Little Cardleywick Station Shelter. Going to be very interesting to see what Metcalfe do next. Personally, I'd like a little lock-up little good shed for a smaller station and a little signal box. But these two are great. And I've got a project in mind for these. It's going to be a little while because it's a club layout, but look out for these being on a layout further down the route. So there we go, another nice little building from Metcalfe. Definitely one to look at. And if you're a newcomer to model railways or a newcomer to Metcalfe in 00 or Engage, then I would say look out for this. When you are looking out for these, again, my usual proviso, shop around on price. Go on the Metcalfe website and see what the actual recommended price is, because you'll find some retailers, let alone private individuals, really ramping that price up. Yes, if you're buying online, you've got to pay for a bit of postage, but there are companies out there who don't charge a great deal for postage. So it's worth shopping around, especially if you're looking, say, on eBay and that sort of thing, or online. If you're a retailer, not so much of a problem. I have noticed quite a lot of retailers lifting retail price by £1 or £2. And I think that's reasonable. I think what they're doing is thinking, look, most people are buying online. They're going to pay a lot of money for postage. You know, perhaps it's going to go up a few quid. But not all of them. Worth shopping around. Thank you very much to Metcalfe. Hope you enjoyed the video and speak to you again soon.